All right, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. I'd like to call this Board of Health special meeting to order. May I have a roll call?
Andy Kornstrom,
Present.
Kyle Patterson,
Here.
Danielle Chenoweth.
Present.
We have a quorum. Is there any public participation? Seeing none. Any old business? Hearing none. I would entertain a motion to approve and make public closed session board meeting minutes and verbatim recordings from the period of 3/1/2020 through 2/18/2022.
So moved.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So, well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my kid off to school at the same time. So the motion is to take, they have a COVID outbreak in his class. So I had to test him this morning, so he's late. So the proposal is to approve the closed session minutes and make them available to the public. Is this correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Yep. Okay. So I had a quick question, which is that I was trying to figure out what the cause of the issue was. And I guess there is some concern about whether the video recordings of our sessions are public. And Ruth, I know that you sent the OMA regulations. I think we got them yesterday. I did not look them over. I didn't have time yesterday to do that. But I'm generally familiar with OMA, and we all have to go through trainings for that. Is it the case? I know we have to have minutes and post those minutes, but the question is, are we required by law to post video or audio of our meetings?
I don't know that there's a requirement to post the audio of those of the meetings, but I think one of the questions or one of the issues that we want to make sure we've gotten taken care of is there is a requirement that all closed sessions be at least audio or you can have it audio and video recorded as well. And so it's a verbatim recording. And then every 6 months, there's supposed to be a review of whether those minutes need to continue to be kept as closed minutes or not. And so to have that, and to make sure that that's decided on and voted on by the board. But I don't believe that the verbatim audio recording has to be posted as in a similar way to those to the minutes. But you know what? I'm going to double check on the statute just to make sure. So thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. So currently the minutes of CU Public Health Board meetings are on the CU PhD website, correct? So every time and the only minutes that would be missing are closed session minutes. And so we're looking at resetting the practice of making sure that we're reviewing closed session minutes in a timely manner. And this is one of the reasons we're reviewing them currently. But I would like an answer to the question about the documents, the recordings. And then I guess the other question is whether if a recording is made, then it becomes subject to a Freedom of Information Act request, right?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Yes, certainly. Just like your regular minutes would be. So okay. Those audio ones, as a government entity, would be subject to that. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I find it really helpful when I was on Urbana City Council to have access to the documentation, and I could go back and watch and see what had occurred. Like and with the Carl litigation, for example, the notes for today, I struggled to remember. I have my own notes. I definitely remember the second set of minutes, but I didn't have access to the first set. So it might be good practice for us to at least keep them all in one place where they're readily accessible for the board. And then if there's a Freedom of Information Act request, we can release them to the public. And we may, as a board, want to consider making those publicly accessible the way other public bodies have them. I think when I first came on the board, I asked why we didn't, why we didn't broadcast our meetings. Because I'm just familiar with boards, public boards typically broadcasting their meetings. But I do think even if we don't broadcast, having people be able to see a public body doing the public's work might be helpful. I don't think we have anything to hide, and so it's helpful to make those publicly available. So that may be for a future conversation, but I think there's nothing that happens at these board meetings that isn't public. And
Danielle, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This is Pat Robinson, and we just recently, I think within the last 4 or 5 months, created a YouTube channel. So all of our open meetings are going to be posted there, just like the county. So they'll be easier in the future if there's ever any other FOIA or any other need. People will have readily accessible.
We're always just a little behind on technology than other places, and we can't broadcast because we don't have, well, I don't know how that works, but I mean, we don't have it set up like the cities do or anything, or the county, but we can put them on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Yeah. I think having a YouTube channel would be great. And I know that we've been focused on a lot of emergency response. So I didn't want to insist on that in the middle of so many different moving parts, but I do think it's good governance. And actually it makes it really easy because when they file a Freedom of Information Act request, you just point them to the public and say, here it is. And that way, actually, it's not it minimizes the amount of, a lot of FOIAs I get are FOIAs for things at township that are actually publicly accessible. So I just send them the link. And it's not a big deal. They just weren't able to find it since we have two websites, the township website and then the town board website are separate. So might make things simpler.
So to follow up on Danielle's comments, and I agree with everything she said, Ruth, is it possible, or should we put some sort of very basic policy in place that we regularly review these? Because I'll be frank, I don't know that I've ever done this in the time that I've been on the board. Maybe I have, but I never recall addressing closed session meeting minutes. And so whether it's every 3 months or 6 months, I just want to make sure that we put it on our calendar, so to speak, because I'm like Danielle, I remember the meeting, but it was a long time ago. And if we did it more regularly, it would be easier to understand what we're making, bringing up forefront. So
We just pick 2 months and say that's and that'll be on the agenda every.
And that's fine with me, whether it's February and, whatever, whatever 6 months from that August is, I'm fine with that. Just, I want to make sure we do this consistently, moving forward. Because like Danielle noted, we have nothing, of course, to hide. And so I just want to, avert these kind of issues moving forward.
I think perhaps you could pick 2 months. The statute requires every 6 months to review and determine whether, so essentially you would vote whether to continue to keep the meetings, the minutes closed or not. And the other thing is there is like sort of, I don't know if you call it a safe harbor, but essentially if you realize, whoops, we forgot to do it, because there are a lot of different governing bodies. As long as you do that, then within 60 days of realizing, that it wasn't done or that being brought to your attention, you're fine with that. What might be the best way is, I think a lot of people have sort of ticklers on their calendars, and for every closed session, every time you go into closed session, just do something that's 6 months from now or 5 months from now, but at least 6 months from now, we're going to do a review of these closed session minutes and have that continue for each closed session that you have until that issue is resolved and you're able to then release those minutes. Until those, you vote to release those minutes, and then that meeting doesn't have to continue on the 6 month schedule. But any other closed session meeting, you would just have, okay, in 6 months, we're going to review that. So that might be the easier thing to do, just to keep that sort of track of that.
Yeah, and I'm fine as long as we have a system. Either one of those works good with me. Kyle, did you have any questions or comments?
I was going to mention, because I knew that statute was every 6 months, but Ruth covered that.
We have a motion, we have a second, we've discussed. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote?
Andy Cornstrom,
Yes?
Kyle Patterson,
Yes.
Danielle Chenoweth.
Danielle answered, she frozen.
Yes. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay. I sometimes feel frozen these days.
That's the story of my life. Did you get all that, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing no other business for this body, we are now adjourned at 8:41 on February 23rd. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day.
You too.
Bye-bye.